DC Studios finally has its Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart with today's casting announcements, revealing that Rebel Ridge star Aaron Pierre will be playing Stewart in the anticipated series alongside Friday Night Lights star Kyle Chandler as Hal Jordan. There have been several top-tier names in the mix for both parts, but now the roles are locked in, and they join DC Studios' other previously confirmed Lantern and Nathan Fillion's Guy Gardner, who will be showing up in Superman. With three big names in the Lantern mythology now cast, Lanterns is off to a strong start. But as longtime fans of the franchise know, they are far from the only ring-slingers out in the universe. And we have several other characters we'd love to see make their DC Studios big screen debuts. Before we get to what we hope for, though, let's go over what we already know. DC's Lanterns will follow Jordan, Chandler, and Stewart Pierre as the intergalactic space cops attempt to solve a murder that took place on Earth. The show is said to be going for a true detective vibe, and at the helm of that vision is showrunner Chris Mundy, Ozark, True Detective, Night Country, and co-writers Damon Lindelof, Watchmen, The Leftovers, and Tom King, Wonder Woman, Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. All right, let's get to the fun stuff and figure out who else should make an appearance when Lanterns finally hits the small screen. Kilowog. The Lantern of Sector 674 is the lovable drill Sergeant Kilowog, and he also happens to be one of the most beloved members of the Green Lantern Corps. Kilowog's primary responsibilities in the past have included training all of the rookie Green Lanterns when they get their rings, and that's allowed many of the Lanterns that stick around to form an appreciation for him, even if he is hard on them during their rookie training. He's also incredibly loyal to those he respects and loves, and has become one of the biggest allies of Earth's Lanterns, though that especially goes for Jordan. Kilowog doesn't have to have a huge part in the series, and that would be likely simply to keep the budget down, as creating a giant pink brute in CG won't be cheap. That said, if Jordan is older and further into his Lantern career, having Kilowog be in the mix makes a lot of sense, and any scene with Jordan and Kilowog would have the potential to steal the show. Sinestro. Now, one person who isn't beloved by other characters is the leader of the Fear Corps, Sinestro, though he is adored by legions of DC fans. Thale Sinestro was once regarded as the greatest Green Lantern, but all that came tumbling down when Jordan discovered how being a ruthless dictator was behind much of that success. Ever since the two have been the greatest of enemies, and seeing how intertwined they have been over the years, it would be surprising to see him not make any appearances in Lanterns. If this is an older Hal working with a younger partner, it would make sense for there to be some big comparisons to his former mentor. Perhaps that will lead to some flashbacks, though an eventual run-in with Sinestro would be something fans would love to see, especially if it's a big tease for a second season or a feature film. Larfleeze. Some characters are heroic, some are villainous, and others live in the gray. Then there's Larfleeze, who imply causes delightful chaos. Larfleeze wields the Orange Ring, which allows him to draw an energy army from the Orange Lantern made up of those he's killed to obtain that power. Sounds powerful, right? Well, it is, but the drawback is that he's obsessed with the orange light, and that has also caused him to be paranoid of everyone and everything, especially if they pose a threat to his orange light. Here's the thing about Larfleeze. He doesn't have to have a huge role to be entertaining, and he instantly brings a sense of chaos into any scenario he's involved in. With the story being located on Earth, the possibility of him being an integral part of the story goes down a bit, but a small cameo or set of appearances is still quite possible, and any interaction he has will be instantly memorable. Guy Gardner. This one is probably the most likely appearance on the list simply because Fillion is already appearing in Superman, but it's also an easy reality thanks to the fact that Lanterns is focused on an Earthbound mystery, and Guy Gardner is one of Earth's 4 Lanterns. Gardner is also like Larfleeze in the fact that he is a perfect way to inject some welcome chaos into a storyline, and Fillion's knack for comedy means he can fit into just about any scenario and make it memorable. If there's a reference to his warrior days, we could even get his famous bar warriors, though that might be a stretch. We do know we're getting the bowl haircut, and since we have 3 of the Lanterns in the mix already, perhaps we get some ways to differentiate their constructs as seen in Rebirth. But again, that's probably too much wishing too soon. Just having Guy around, or the party, will be worth it ultimately. And here's hoping he gets an invite. Sojourner Mullen. Now we're getting to the new additions to the Lantern mythology, and few have made as big an impression as quickly as Sojourner Mullen. Making her debut in Far Sector, Jo has since become a prominent member of the Lantern Corps in the comics, and is more than deserving of some shine in the new series, with two reasons standing out most. Those who read Far Sector were introduced to Jo in a very similar way to Lanterns, though she didn't have a traditional partner in her scenario. She was operating out in the far sector of space and having to deal with power players who weren't so keen on having her there while she investigated a case. And she managed to not only solve that case, but also navigate a societal breakdown in the process. Jo's a detective through and through, and that would make an interesting contrast to Jordan and Stewart. Her ring is also very unique in terms of how it operates, drawing not from will, but from the ability to live with fear, giving her another intriguing contrast to the rest of the cast. Kyle Rayner. Anyone who knows me was expecting this pick to be on the list, and I would hate to disappoint in that regard. The fourth Earth-based Lantern is the torchbearer Kyle Rayner, and it would simply make sense for Kyle to make some sort of appearance if Rayner's fellow Earth Lanterns are all accounted for. Granted, this could be a way to bring him into the fold, as he is the newest of the group to the Corps, but depending on what DC establishes in its Lantern history, he could already have some time in the Corps. If there's history already established, Rayner brings a unique voice to the mix, as few have as many ties to the overall mythology as he does. Rayner was at one point the last Lantern left and faced off against a Morning, and now we know slightly possessed, Hal Jordan for that very power. Then he became one of the most powerful Lanterns ever as Ion. And more recently, he's been affected by the entire emotional spectrum, all the while continuing to be one of the Corps' best and brightest. A Rayner appearance of any kind would be a big win, and here's hoping he gets to make his DC series debut soon. Carol Ferris. We're moving to the Star Sapphires for our last pick of the list, though anyone who knows Carol Ferris knows she is much more than just another ring wielder. Ferris is part of the Star Sapphire Corps, who wields the power of love and has several unique abilities compared to those in the other Corps. Ferris has also had a long-time on and off relationship